members of the faculty, and the student body of this great institution of learning. Ladies and gentlemen, there are several things that one could talk about before such a large, concerned, and enlightened audience. Today, I'd like to speak on the subject, the other America. I use this subject because there are literally two Americas. One America is overflowing with the milk of prosperity and the honey of opportunity. This America is the habitat of millions of people who have food and material necessities for their bodies, and culture and education for their minds, and freedom and human dignity for their spirits. In this America, millions of people experience every day the opportunity of having life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness in all of their dimensions. In this America, millions of young people grow up in the sunlight of opportunity. But tragically and unfortunately, there is another America. This other America has a daily ugliness about it that constantly transforms the cheerfulness of hope into the fatigue of despair. In this other America, millions of work-starved men walk the streets daily in search for jobs that do not exist. In this America, millions of people find themselves living in rat-infested, vermin-filled slums. In this America, people are poor by the millions. They find themselves perishing on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. In this other America, children are forced to grow up with clouds of inferiority forming every day in their little mental skies. In this other America, we see it as an arena of blasted hopes and shattered dreams. We are seeking to make America one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We could not go to a lunch counter. We could not make use of public accommodations. We had to sit in the back on public transportation. We did not have the right to vote in so many areas of the South. By the thousands, we protested these conditions. Many strides were gained to subpoena the conscience of the nation to appear before the judgment seat of morality. But we must see that the struggle today is much more difficult because we are struggling now for genuine equality. There are hundreds of thousands of Negroes who have given up. They've lost hope. They've come to feel that life is a long and desolate corridor for them with no exit sign. Racism is still alive in American society and much more widespread than we realize. If one says that I'm not good enough to live next door to him, if one says that I'm not good enough to eat at a lunch counter, or to have a good, decent job, or to go to school with him merely because of my race, he is saying consciously or unconsciously that I do not deserve to exist. In 1863, the Negro was free from the bondage of physical slavery. Emancipation for the Negro was freedom to hunger, freedom to the winds and rains of heaven, freedom without roofs to cover their heads, freedom without bread to eat, freedom without land to cultivate. It was freedom and famine at the same time. All of our cities are potentially powder kegs, many in moments of anger and many in moments of deep bitterness engage in riots. A riot is the language of the unheard. America has failed to hear that the plight of the Negro poor. America has failed to hear that the promises of freedom and justice have not been met. America has failed to hear that large segments of white society are more concerned about tranquility and the status quo than about justice, equality, and humanity. Our nation's summers of riots are caused by our nation's winters of delay. Now, there's another notion that legislation can't solve the problem. Although it may be true that morality cannot be legislated, behavior can be regulated. Even though it may be true that the law cannot change the heart, it can restrain the heart less. Even though it's true that the law cannot make a man love me, it can restrain him from lynching me. Even though the law may not be able to change the hearts of men, it can and it does change the habits of men. And when you begin to change the habits of men, pretty soon the attitudes will be changed. Pretty soon the hearts will be changed. A man was on the plane with me and said, the problem, Dr. King, is that every time I see you and other Negroes, you're protesting and you aren't doing anything for yourselves. Why don't you teach your people to lift themselves by their own bootstraps? I reminded him that no other racial group has been a slave on American soil. I reminded that millions of Negroes, as a result of centuries of denial and neglect, have been left bootless. I reminded him that it's a nice thing to say to people that you ought to lift yourself by their own bootstraps. But it is a cruel joke to say to a bootless man that he ought to lift himself by their own bootstraps. If we are going to make brotherhood a reality, we must realize that the destinies of the Negro and the white man are tied together. The Negro needs the white man to save him from his fear. The white man needs the Negro to save him from his guilt. We are tied together in our language, our cultural patterns, and our material prosperity. The salvation of the Negro will mean the salvation of the white man. And the destruction of life and progress of the Negro will be the destruction of progress of the nation. Now, let me say finally that we have difficulties ahead, but I haven't despaired. Somehow I maintain hope in spite of hope. I think we're going to achieve our freedom because however much America strays away from the ideals of justice, the goal of America is freedom. Abused and scorned though we may be, our destiny is tied up in the destiny of America. Before the Pilgrim Fathers landed at Plymouth, we were here. Before Jefferson etched across the pages of history the majestic words of the Declaration of Independence, we were here. Before the beautiful words of the Star-Spangled Banner were written, we were here. And so I can still sing, we shall overcome. We shall overcome because the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. We shall overcome because no lie can live forever. We shall overcome because truth forever on the scaffold, wrong forever on the throne. Yet that scaffold sways the future. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discourse of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to speed up the day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics will be able to join hands and live together as brothers and sisters all over this great nation. That will be a great day. That will be a great tomorrow. That will be the day when the morning stars will sing together and the sons of God will shout for joy. Thank you.